Good morning and welcome to Ohio Stadium, where Ohio State's going to be playing against Maryland at noon today. We are 2 hours to kick off as we talk right now, and there is some news. Tony Gerdeman, the availability report just dropped, and Ohio State is going to be without one of its big offensive stars.
Yeah, starting running back TreVeyon Henderson, a surprise appearance on the injury report. This week he will not be playing against Maryland. This is a situation where this is the biggest game of the year to this point. Now you're 4-0, looking to go 5-0, and you're without your leading rusher by nearly double the yards of anybody else. So it's a significant blow for Ohio State. Imagine him not playing against Notre Dame, how that game how it would have shaken out. So now they're going to have to go into this one without their leading rusher.
And you know, there was kind of this like indirect hint to this a little earlier in the week, when Ryan Day talked about Mayan Williams being more involved in the game plan this week. And, you know, at the time we thought, okay, maybe they're just trying to mix things up. Maybe, you know, he talked about him having a good week of practice. Okay. Now it's kind of like, I see. Now he's one of the top 2 running backs.
Yeah, I think from now on, anytime Ryan Day starts talking somebody up, we're going to have to assume, is that because somebody else is injured? So yeah, he said he was looking forward to seeing Mayan Williams this week. He had a good week of practice and tried to press, like, was Mayan Williams hurt or anything like that? Is he healthy now? I was like, no, Mayan's fine. But we forgot to ask, is somebody else hurt?
Yeah, that's always the best, when you think you've asked the right question. It's like, no, the right question is 2 doors down. Yeah. You just rang the wrong doorbell. So no TreVeyon Henderson today. How does that impact things for Ohio State? I mean, obviously you've got plenty of other capable running backs. You've got, you know, I'm guessing it's going to be a Chip Trayanum start. I'm guessing we'll see plenty of Mayan Williams. Dallin Hayden had a massive game against Maryland last year, so maybe you see some Dallin Hayden. How do you see the distribution of carries shaking out, and how do you see the absence of TreVeyon Henderson maybe impacting the offense?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because he is their best outside runner. So now I expect them to stay mostly inside, and if they go outside, it may not be as effective as it has been. So this has not been a great inside running team, and that might be the focus of what they do. So, you know, granted, Chip Trayanum and Mayan Williams, they have both had their moments, and coming into the season, we thought Mayan Williams was going to be 1B and would be fine. So if this would have been August 31st, or, you know, the first week of the season, you're like, well, you know, Mayan Williams will be fine. But, you know, from what we've seen from Mayan Williams this year, he's struggled. Chip Trayanum averaging, you know, a little over 4 or 5 yards a carry. So, like, they have not been explosive. Chip Trayanum had the 40-yard run against Western Kentucky, but outside of that, their numbers are pretty similar. So it's going to be one of those 2 guys. Both of those guys are going to have to step up. You mentioned Dallin Hayden, 26 carries for 140 yards in the second half of last year's game,
and that came after TreVeyon Henderson started that game. He had a nice reception on a screen pass. Might have gone for a touchdown, or if not, it was a long reception. But it was something like 11 carries for 19 yards for Henderson in that game, and he was very obviously not physically right at that point. So may have a little bit of history repeating itself today. We'll see how the carries are distributed. The only other name that is new of, you know, real significance on the injury report is sophomore corner Jair Brown. He is out for the game. That's a guy who has been, you know, he started against Wisconsin last year, but he has not been, you know, he's not a starter this year. He's not, I don't know that we've seen him before fourth quarters in any meaningful way on the defense. So, you know, I mean, when you're playing a team like Maryland, who's going to be throwing the ball probably a good amount, you would like to have all of your corners healthy. So, you know, the margin for error is certainly a little smaller for Ohio State in the corner room.
Yeah, I mean, he's their number 4 corner, so you take him out of the picture, and now you're moving either true freshman Jermaine Matthews there, or Lorenzo Styles, transfer from Notre Dame, still getting his feet wet at corner. So if something happens to one of their starters, it's a good thing they have 3, but even if you were to lose one of your 2 outside guys, and Jordan Hancock goes to the outside, then you've got to replace him on the inside. And you know, Cameron Martinez is back. He was on one of the previous injury reports, so, you know, they have to shift some things. They can do that, but yeah, against a passing attack, a deep passing attack like this one against Maryland, you'd like to have everybody, but if you're going to lose any of your corners, it's preferable to lose your 4th corner rather than your 1st corner.
Yeah, so now those are the 2 big absences of consequence that are new. A lot of the same names that we've seen all year. Court Williams obviously still out, and all the names we've been talking about every single week. Those guys are still out. Arvell Reese still out. The return of Cam Martinez is something that's positive, because I think he missed the Notre Dame game, I believe. So that is a positive development for Ohio State. Now, as we look at the game itself, it feels like Maryland is, this is as good an opportunity as Maryland has had to come into Ohio Stadium with a chance to, certainly play a competitive game, maybe win. You're thinking to yourself right now, Maryland plays Ohio State tough all the time. Yes, it's always down in College Park. Those games tend to be very close, very dramatic. The games in Ohio Stadium have, for whatever reason, just been absolute annihilations for the most part. There was a 62-3, I think, at one point. Ohio State had 66 points, I think, 2 years ago when Maryland was here. They have just not been competitive here over the years. This is a year where maybe, Maryland is 5-0. The competition they've played has not been tremendous, but this is another, Ohio State just played a team with a real savvy veteran quarterback in Sam Hartman. You're getting another one this week with Talia Tagovailoa.
Yeah, Talia Tagovailoa has completed like 72% of his passes in the last 2 games against Ohio State, so he's not necessarily been the reason for their struggles. He did throw 2 interceptions here 2 years ago, but they weren't pick sixes, both of them, maybe.
There was at least one that was a pick six, but and I don't remember if that was him, because that was right at the end of the game. I think that was that Cam Martinez that had a pick six in that game?
It could have been, but he's been very good this year. It's going to be a significant test. The broken play type of situation where the extended plays where the defenders are going to have to defend for longer as he maybe gets out of the pocket, avoid some rush. Assuming there's some rush. There will be some rush.
There will be some rush, yes. Our solemn promise to you that we have no control over.
Yeah, so there'll be some extended defending that this defense hasn't necessarily had to do before, because I think to Western Kentucky, they're trying to get it out as quickly as possible. Against Notre Dame, they're more conservative. They don't have the outside weapons necessarily that these guys do, so you're throwing to the inside to tight ends, and that was very effective, but it was also very pointed. This could just not necessarily some slow developing stuff, because they'll do the RPOs.
Yeah.
That's going to be boom, boom, boom. But outside of that, there could be some breaking off of patterns and scramble drills and things like that, which could lead to some big games.
And this is a game where, this is an Ohio State defense that has not given up really big plays this season. That has been a marked change from last year, and we've talked that into the ground a bunch over the last few weeks, but Jim Knowles no longer viewing 5 big plays as the cost of doing business. There's been a little bit of a philosophical shift, and it has been a very positive one for Ohio State. Maryland had 9, I think, big plays, explosive plays last week, I believe. That's this is a little bit of irresistible force versus a movable object, and there was not much resistance on the force in Maryland's last game, but this is probably potentially the most explosive offense that Ohio State has played this year.
Yeah, and I think I said it on a previous show. Last year against Ohio State, Maryland had 8 20-yard pass plays, and so far this season, I think Ohio State has given them 9 total 20-yard pass plays, the longest play of 36 yards. But this is an offense that has big plays. I think 4 or 5 of their receivers have receptions of 30 yards. So they spread it around, and the guys they spread it around to can go the distance.
And the running game for Maryland is not as explosive. The running game for Maryland, Roman Hemby is averaging 4.8. Their second running back is averaging 4.6. Their third running back, who is a little more explosive, was out last week. I think he was expected to be back this week, but he was averaging 7.9. So maybe you hit a big one with him. But Roman Hemby in there is more of a stay on schedule running back than a potential big play running back. Other side of the ball, the top line stats for Maryland are pretty good on the defensive side of the ball, but when you dig into it a little more, it's like, boy, they have played no kind of passing offense at all. The teams they're playing are down like with the teams that Michigan is playing right now in terms of where they are in terms of passing stats and passing rankings and that kind of stuff. So this is going to be a Maryland secondary that gets tested for the first time all year, and boy, you are going straight from syllabus day to the final exam, going from, Indiana last week to Ohio State.
Yeah, it's a step up. That's one of those things where, am I in the right class? This feels. I don't remember what I'm seeing. I'm not familiar with any of this language, letters and math. What is this stuff? And that's what they're going to get today against Ohio State. Provided it was pretty breezy walking in today. Now I may have been walking against the wind the entire time, so that may have had something to do with it.
Uphill too.
Uphill. I'm not that old. But yeah, I mean, this is a secondary that has not seen anything like this, and this is an Ohio State offense passing game that has not been as good as passing games at Ohio State in the past. But it's still going to be a very big step up for a Maryland secondary that everybody at Ohio State says is pretty good.
Yeah, and just since the weather is always a question, here's your weather report. It is overcast right now. Sun's supposed to maybe peek out a little bit later on. This is the first really, truly fall day in Columbus. It was in the 80s earlier in the week. It was in the 40s this morning. It's supposed to be, I think, around 50 degrees around kickoff time. A little bit of a breeze. This is not, at this point I measure everything by Northwesterns, and this is about a 0.2 Northwestern wind. So you may see, long passes could have some impact, but I think both of these quarterbacks have strong enough arms. I'm not expecting this to be a lot of fluttering passes or anything like that. Just to kind of wrap this up here, what did you end up with as a score prediction for this game?
I went 34-17. I'm still waiting to see an explosive Ohio State offense against a Power 5 opponent, and that was before knowing TreVeyon Henderson wasn't going to play. I'm not necessarily, I don't think I'm going to change my pick at all. Maybe they throw the ball more because they don't have TreVeyon Henderson, or maybe they find that the guys they have running inside are the guys that they need to have running inside.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can run inside today, because if you don't have your big play guy, what does the average yards per carry look like if you don't have the guy who hits the 62-yard touchdown? You might have to do it a little more methodically. You might run it a little bit less because you're not picking up chunk plays. And Ryan Day, I think, has at times gotten a little antsy with not getting the ball very much and feeling like you kind of maybe got to do more. I had 35-21 Ohio State again before we knew about the TreVeyon Henderson news, but I think it's probably ends up somewhere in that area, and you want to slide it down to 31-21, 31-20, whatever. I mean, something in that range. This feels like a game Ohio State wins. It is not a top 25 win because Maryland is not ranked for reasons. Kentucky ranked, Tony, with very similar resume, ranked number 20. So Georgia may get a chance at a ranked win today. Ohio State will not, but Ohio State will get a chance at a really significant win, because this may very well be the fourth best team in the Big Ten, behind the big three in the East of Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. So we will be back after the game. We'll have our usual live post-game show for you, youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Make sure you check that out, and we will talk to you guys after the game.